You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't predict the future, but it can help you feel confident about future hires. Because Hiring Pro combines real-time insights and candidate data from the LinkedIn network with the criteria you've set for your role to deliver you a list of top-fit candidates. Businesses who use LinkedIn are 24% less likely to reopen a role in the next 12 months. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
Stacking Benjamins is not for everyone. Side effects may include euphoria, increased ability to meet your goals, and aggression from people wondering, quote, what the hell your secret is. Stacking Benjamins may be habit-forming, especially if you stick around for the entire episode. Wink. Please check with your doctor to see if Stacking Benjamins is right for you.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and how are your negotiating skills? We're about to help you pump them up to 11 with the host of the Afford Anything podcast and negotiation instructor, Paula Pant. In our headline segment, how's your workplace retirement plan performing? We'll share a study from Morningstar that shows many could be doing better and how to tweak for better performance. I'll also share a TikTok minute about how your child could retire with over $4 million, and then I'll share some incredibly entertaining trivia. And now, two guys who believe the best side hustle is avoiding lifestyle creep. It's Joe and O-J-J-J-J-G.
Hey there, stackers. Yes, making more money for the win, Doug. I am Joe Saul-Sehy, Average Joe Money on Twitter and X. I gotta stop saying Twitter. Welcome to
I think you're good.
The podcast that not only helps you earn more money, helps you save more, and to get
Easy for you to say.
Today, negotiate. I could say that word today. Today, come on, say it, man. It's funny, back when I stuttered a lot more out loud, people would think they were helping you when they'd say, come on, get it out. You're like, oh yeah, that doesn't help at all. But the guy that helps us a ton here at Stacking Benjamins, Mr. OG is here. How are you, man?
Hello, everyone.
Blowing kisses to your fans.
Yes.
Oh, that's awkward.
It is a fantastic Wednesday here in the basement because somebody who we rarely talk to is dropping by. Paula Pant. I don't know if you guys have heard of Paula.
I forgot what her voice sounds like.
We have no idea. We spend nearly every Friday with Paula, but Paula has negotiated so many deals over her lifetime. She's also interviewed so many negotiation experts. She's a 4-time Plutus Award winner. Heck, they gave her, they being the Plutus Foundation, gave her a Lifetime Achievement Award. This woman is 10 years younger than I am, even younger than that, I mean, over 10 years younger than I am, and has won a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Does that say more about her or more about you?
I know. Say you're old without saying you're old, OG.
Every time I hear that Lifetime Achievement Award now, I think of the famous Tina Fey, Amy Poehler intro of, I think it was the Golden Globes maybe, where they start talking about Amal Clooney and they talk about all the incredible things she's done. And she's on this UN peacekeeping panel and she's negotiated
she did the
all
trial
these
at
things.
Nuremberg.
Right. Exactly.
She's a double doctorate in international law.
Yeah.
But George is the one getting the Lifetime Achievement Award.
They run through the whole
movies.
resume and they're like, but tonight her husband is kidding. It's just the best setup ever.
Tina Fey, yeah.
Our friend Jason Fawbush, OG, did that when we were kicking off my book tour. You flew into Texarkana for that event.
Yep.
And Jason does this whole long intro about how super happy we are to have this person in Texarkana and all these accolades, and goes, and that's Cheryl Saul-Sehy. And tonight we're going to drag her reprobate husband, Joe, out and talk about this book. Funny stuff. But anyway, Paula Pant here talking negotiation. Today, she's going to teach our Stacker Nation how to negotiate more, whether it's for a raise or what to have for dinner tonight. You're going to come out of this being a better negotiator. So that's on deck. Paula coming up next. But first, we have a couple sponsors to make sure we can keep on keeping on, and you don't pay a dime for our mentors or any of the other fun things we do here at Stacking Benjamins. So sit back. We're going to hear from a couple of them, and then the Paula Pant front and center in Mom's Basement. You may not know that when we started Stacking Benjamins, it was a blog. And even then, just the startup cost, I remember thinking, is this the right thing? And what if I write things and nobody comes, right? Well, luckily, that didn't end up happening. But starting something new isn't just hard. It's terrifying. There's so much work. You're not sure whether it's going to work out. You're not sure if anybody's going to read it. And then we change it to a podcast. Is anybody actually going to listen, right? What if nobody wants all the stuff that we have? Well, had I used Shopify, it would have been even easier, because with their expertise, their helpful tools, and their easy to use platform, that's something that would have made Stacking Benjamins more effective much, much more quickly. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Names you've heard of like Heinz and Mattel, Shopify, Gymshark, Aviator Nation, Allbirds, also all Shopify. Get started with your own design studio with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. And did I mention that iconic purple Shop Pay button? It's used by millions of businesses around the world. It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. It also helps boost conversions, meaning less carts going abandoned and more sales for you. So you're stacking Benjamins much more quickly. Time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/SB. Go to shopify.com/SB. That's shopify.com/SB. Dell PCs with Intel Inside are built for the moments you plan and the ones you don't. They're for those all-night study sessions, the moment you're working from a cafe and realize every outlet's taken, the times you're deep in your flow and can't be interrupted by an auto update. That's why Dell builds tech that adapts to you. Built with long-lasting batteries so you're not scrambling for an outlet, and built-in intelligence that makes updates around your schedule, not in the middle of it. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/Dell PCs. Built for you. And as we mentioned, a woman who's never been here before. You have no idea who she is. Paula, how do you pronounce your last name? Paula.
Paula Shorts.
Paula Shorts.
Paula Shorts. Yes. Yeah.
Paula
You can also call me Paula Trousers sometimes. Paula Pantalones.
It's so funny. My nickname in high school was the Sea Hag for Sea High. And I don't know if you remember Popeye, but there was Popeye and Olive Oil, and the Sea Hag was like one of the bad people that Popeye was always fighting against, the Sea Hag. So I was
the
Sea
Popeye
High.
villain.
I was Sea High, and I was very ugly. So I was the Sea Hag. Yeah, no, it was funny. I didn't mind being the Sea Hag. Did you get any pant related, like high school nickname?
No, not pant related, but people used to call me Napala.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, because I'm Paula from Nepal. Napala. So
let's begin here on negotiation, because Paula was probably the reason why you dug into this topic, is that all of our stackers know that they should negotiate, but like everybody freezes. Why do you think so many people that are confident in so many other areas, like they avoid negotiation conversations completely? Well, especially around salary and money.
yeah, so it's for a variety of reasons. We surveyed our students. We didn't want to make assumptions. We wanted to talk to them, do in-depth interviews, find out what was going on. And so we surveyed about a dozen of our beta testers, and we heard the same thing, which was specifically in the context of a job negotiation. It was, I don't want to risk the offer, or I don't want to jeopardize the offer. That was a huge fear. I don't want to not seem like a team player. I don't want to seem too greedy. I don't want to seem too money oriented. During a job offer, you're trying to put your best foot forward. You're trying to present the most idealized version of yourself. And so having to self-advocate at a time when you are simultaneously trying to sell yourself and to present that best version, there's a little bit of a cognitive dissonance there. So again and again, I don't want to jeopardize the offer was the number one thing that we heard. That was for people who are in the context of switching jobs or applying for jobs. But in the context of someone who already has a job and they're dealing with their boss during a performance review, what we heard was, I don't want to be seen as not a team player. This is my most important professional relationship. I don't want to harm that in any way.
It's funny. It's like we internally think to ourselves, if I negotiate, I'm going to be seen as a jerk. It's just this need to be liked.
And I think part of the issue that a lot of people face is that oftentimes, especially in the United States, we don't have a lot of negotiation experience except for a handful of big ticket items: your home, your car, your job. Those are typically the 3 times that a person negotiates. It isn't in some other countries when you go buy groceries, you go to a fruit stall and you're haggling over the price of bananas. In many other parts of the world, negotiations are something that you do in very small amounts for shoes, t-shirts, milk, bananas, oranges. And so you get lots and lots of little bits of practice. And so one of the things that we really drew out and tried to emphasize is how often in our daily lives in the US, we do negotiate, not necessarily about price. Think about when you're walking through a door and there's that hidden body language dance of who goes first, who holds the door open for who. It's subtle, it's quick, it's sometimes just a second or two, but there's a little hidden negotiation with strangers that happens right there. Or with your spouse when you're negotiating over who unloads the dishwasher.
Me.
There are these.
I lose every time.
Or you might say that you win. You, in fact, win because you've made the decision that you're going to unload the dishwasher because it serves the purpose of having a healthy and happy relationship.
That's a great reframing. That is funny because we'll talk about that more later, but I think a lot of negotiation, as you point out, is reframing. But can you think of a time when you either hesitated or completely bungled a negotiation yourself?
Yeah, the very first job that I ever accepted, my first job out of college, I did not negotiate at all. I just took exactly what I was offered, no questions asked. And that was not a high salary, and which was part of the reason that I felt like I couldn't. Because they were offering me a very low salary, the way that I heard that was, hey, we don't have a whole lot of resources, but we want to offer you a position anyway. And so my interpretation of that was, all right, they don't have that many resources. How could I possibly ask for more?
Oh, yeah. And if you had that to do again, you would negotiate.
Yeah, exactly. Because particularly if you're not earning a whole lot, the marginal difference of even a few $1,000s, even an extra $3,000 or $4,000 a year, for anyone, that's a big deal. But particularly when you don't earn that much, an extra $3,000 or $4,000 a year is significant.
That's so funny because we think that, hey, this doesn't pay a lot, so there's not a lot to go around. And the opposite is true, which
Right.
because there's not a lot to go around, I need to negotiate more. I need to get good at this.
Exactly.
We talked about one myth about negotiation, just that people are going to think that I'm a jerk if I negotiate, right? That I'm going to be somebody that rocks the boat. What's another myth about negotiation you wish you could erase from all of our brains?
A lot of people believe that negotiations are zero sum, win lose. Every dollar that I take is something that I'm taking away from you. The best negotiations are actually value creation through mutual understanding. So let's say you've got a job candidate, you've got a hiring manager. If the job candidate can understand what the priorities of the hiring manager are, and vice versa, the hiring manager understands the priorities of the candidate, they can find ways for both of them to win. Particularly in a multi-issue negotiation like that, you're not just talking about salary. You're talking salary, health insurance, paid time off, whether you work remotely or in person, depending on what type of job you have. That's applicable for some, that's not. You're talking about,
It'd be like role adjustment.
yeah, role adjustment, any fees for professional development, like courses or conferences, depending on the structure of the company that you're working for. It could even extend to things like parking spaces, things like what kind of equipment you receive, what kind of a budget that you have in the scope of the work that you do. There are so many elements to crafting that agreement that it isn't as simple as I win, you lose. You said 120,000 and I said 130,000 and only one of us gets to win. And you know, like that's a very zero sum way of thinking about it versus let me understand what matters to you. What are the priorities of the company? What are your constraints and hopes and fears as a hiring manager? And when I understand that, let me understand how I can best fit that.
As you're talking, I'm thinking about the recent headline at Ford, where I don't know if you saw this, Paula, but Ford used to pay people $17 an hour at the lowest end of the rung. And then the CEO of Ford, talking to some of the union heads, the union people said, listen, these people are going to get jobs at Amazon when they're not working 8 hours here, they're working at Amazon and they're tired and they're not giving you their best foot forward because they're making too little money to put their best foot forward.
Right.
And the CEO of Ford is Amazon should be a worse job than we are. Like that should not be, well, at that level, you know what I mean? I mean, Amazon job, I'm sure can be a great job, but at the level he's looking at, he wants it to be a better job in people's head. So he took people from $17 to $23 an hour. Not $23 an hour isn't the end all be all, but that's a $6 an hour raise for tons of people at Ford. But I think what's interesting is you at that newspaper asking for more money. Had you done that, still wouldn't have been a zero sum game because by you making more money, you wouldn't have had to stress out so much about money, which you would have done at work. And now you can pay more attention to the bottom line, which is making your column or your pieces better.
Exactly. And I did see that news story and it's a perfect example, right? Because what's in the best interest of Ford? It's having a well-rested, healthy, productive workforce.
Yeah, that's proud of working there. Imagine.
So $17 an hour, that is approximately $35,000 per year. The quick and easy math, by the way, for anybody who wants to figure out how to translate hourly to yearly, is 40 hours a week times 50 weeks a year. That's 2,000 working hours per year. So just take the hourly rate, double it, and then put 3 zeros on the end. And you can do the same in reverse. If you make your money in annual salary and you want to know how that breaks down to an hourly rate, just lop off the 3 zeros and then the number that's
divide
left.
By 2.
Yeah, cut it in half. So 17 an hour is 35,000 a year. $23 an hour, that's 46,000 a year. That's
a jump.
At that level of income, that's life-changing. It's truly life-changing.
I want to walk through a couple of the concepts that are important for people when they negotiate that you've included in your course. One is this idea of aspiration points. Can you walk through aspiration points? What is that about?
So your aspiration point, when you're going into a negotiation, your aspiration point is the best case scenario. It is the ideal outcome that you want. And remember, when we talk about negotiation, again, I want to emphasize there are single person, single issue negotiations, like you're buying a used couch on Craigslist or on Facebook Marketplace. It's more or less a single issue negotiation. There are also single person but multi-issue negotiations. So one job candidate and one hiring manager. It's one-on-one because it's only between two people, but there are many issues that they're dealing with. And then sometimes there's multi-party, multi-issue. That's a different topic. But to go to your question, when we talk about aspiration point is your ideal outcome among every single one of those multi-issue variables. And that is without regard to what the counterparty wants. That is just something that you, before you even enter the negotiation, sit down and clarify for yourself. Because if you don't go into the negotiation with a clear sense in advance of what your ideal outcome is, then it can be very easy to get swayed by what happens in the heat of the conversation.
Sure.
Go in knowing what you want.
Well, one of the biggest problems I found with people negotiating, especially when we're talking about jobs, is, and you touched on this earlier, they only think about salary. They don't think about all the other points where I can aspire for more.
The opposite of the aspiration point is the reservation point. And reservation point is the minimum that you'd be willing to accept. So if aspiration point is the ceiling, reservation point is the floor. And when you go into that conversation, know both sets of numbers. And I use the word numbers. It's not necessarily always a number.
Sure.
It might be weeks of vacation. It might be work from home versus not work from home. It might be the amount of support that you're given within the role that you have. Like it isn't necessarily numerical, but in every single one of those verticals of issues, know both the ceiling and the floor.
We often then, we go into this negotiation. I know both of those points. I start thinking about what the other person is going to do, right? What's the other person going to do? Is that where our head should be?
Yes. Yeah. What you really want to do is think not tactically about what's the other person going to do, but rather what are the motivations of the other person? What's the other person's aspiration point and reservation point, right?
So what are mine and what are theirs? I'm starting to see like a spreadsheet. Yeah.
Exactly. Because you've got your AP and RP, right? There's that range in between, that spectrum. And that spectrum in between is what's called your ZOPA, your zone of potential agreement, right? So anywhere in that spectrum between your AP and your RP, that's your zone. And then they also have their own AP and RP, their own ceiling and floor. And anywhere in between is their zone. And so what you want to try to figure out is where your zones overlap. And so when you're going into that negotiation, your primary objective is to understand where the other party is coming from, because the better of an understanding that you have of them, their concerns, their issues, their AP, their RP, the better you'll be able to figure out where that overlapping ZOPA, zone of potential agreement, is.
I'm thinking about, as I'm putting this together, I'm gaining so much confidence because I have this comfort that I have some idea of where this conversation is going to go. And when it goes out of bounds, just how to bring it back, because I know what that zone of personal agreement. I was going to ask you what ZOPA meant. So nice job.
Oh, thank you. It's zone of potential agreement.
I saw that in your notes. I'm like, I have no idea what this is. So we're just going to ask. Yes. And it's the zone between those numbers. Okay. For all of us. So I think that builds confidence. But you and I had this discussion before that another thing that builds confidence is actually going out and doing it, right?
Yes.
Going out and hammering it. So what is one, let's put our stackers to work, Paula. What's a small thing we could go out and try to negotiate, all of us, maybe this week? And I'd love for people to email me, joe@stackingbenjamins.com, and tell me if you did it. And let's hear some success stories. But what's something that we could try negotiating this week? Maybe a little thing to get people started.
I would start with the dishwasher. Have that conversation with your spouse.
What if they're not married? Have it with the cat?
If you have a roommate or something, you could have that negotiation with your roommate. Yeah. But if you live alone and there's nobody else to to negotiate that dishwasher unloading, then I would look for those little negotiations in your daily life. I would start paying attention to when you get on or off an elevator, when you make eye contact with the other person and you are silently figuring out who's going to go ahead, who's going to go first. And then both of you gesture, oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
There's this awkward dance.
Yeah, I would start really tuning into that, because the thing is, a lot of people are nervous. Like the word negotiation often triggers a bit of a knee-jerk reaction from people who believe, like the students that we surveyed, that going into a negotiation makes you look like not a team player. But when you start to clue into the fact that you actually negotiate in your daily life all the time, constantly, you're already doing it. This isn't something that you have to start. You're already negotiating constantly. You just don't recognize those interactions as negotiations. So the first thing that I would do is just start recognizing the many things that you're already doing as negotiations. And that will, I think, ease the notion of negotiation for you.
So fun. Let's put it into practice, stackers. All right. All of what we talked about has been global. This is the way to look at a negotiation. But let's walk through a few tactics, Paula. If you could teach one negotiation tactic, just one little in the moment tactic to somebody who's terrified to ask for more, what would that be?
Anchor high. Throw out an anchor of some number that you really want. Maybe you want 4 weeks of vacation, or maybe you want to work from home every Thursday and Friday. Throw that out and then be quiet. Don't rush to justify it. Don't rush to fill the silence. Throw it out and then be comfortable sitting in silence, because most people are uncomfortable with silence. And so if the room is quiet, and this could be a physical room, it could be a Zoom room, if the space is quiet, the other party likely will begin talking.
On that point, one of my favorite tactical pieces that I ever saw, Paula, which is very similar to yours, was Mom used to have one of those just bathroom reader books that sit on the toilet.
Yeah.
This was a book of wisdom from 9-year-olds. And this is wisdom from Melissa, age 9. If you want a kitty, ask for a horse. Set the anchor high.
And in this case, it's ask for a horse and then be quiet.
And then shut up.
Yeah, don't rush to justify that horse. Just stay silent.
I thought as I was prepping for today, like all of the range of negotiation tactics that you hear from different people. I think about Maury Tahirapur, who was on our show, and she was talking about bring yourself in who you are, which is more along the lines of what I read from Disney CEO Bob Iger, who said his negotiation strategy, Paula, is just come in completely open-hearted, say, here's what I'm looking to do, and just lay it on out. I don't use a lot of tricks. He goes, I just go in and I tell them exactly what they want. And then they feel like they're open to tell me what I want. We have more of an open conversation. So there's that style on one hand. And then I think of the Chris Voss, right? It seems a lot more structured and more hardcore negotiating. What's one negotiation tactic you would never use that you hear a lot of people talk about?
So there are a number of hardball tactics that you'll encounter out there. And I don't like using them, but you need to know how to deal with them if somebody else is using
they'll
those
bring it back
hardball.
at you.
Yeah, if somebody else is using those hardball tactics on you. For example, one hardball tactic is what's called the information overload, where they just, let's say you're buying a house or you're buying a car, you ask for some information. There are actually two different hardball tactics, and they're the opposite of each other. One is that they're very reluctant to give you any of that information. They deprive you of critical information. You have to ask and ask. Eventually, you get tired and you give up, right? The other is the opposite of that. It's the information overload, in which you ask a simple question and they inundate you with so much information, but they make it hard to search, hard to find. They essentially drown you in paperwork. And this happens more with real estate closings and things like that. But they drown you with so much information that you don't want to ask any follow-up questions because you don't want to get flooded with additional information again.
I have been there. Where I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa, hold on. Oh, wait, what, huh? What? I used to inadvertently do that. It wasn't a negotiation. It wasn't a tactic. I just thought that when I was a financial planner, if my client knew more, they would make better choices. And what I found, and I had a mentor finally share with me, is the reason people aren't making decisions is you're giving them too much. You need to cut it to the top three. That's what they pay you for. They pay you to cut it to something reasonable so they can make one of three happy choices and you go to bed happy that they made a good choice and they actually made a choice. But I was getting really frustrated because of information overload. I'd been there. When I just look at the breadth of this course that you've put together, we'll talk about in just a second. There's so much here, Paula. And I know that whenever you and I talk to anybody who's written a book, written a documentary, created something cool, there's a piece that completely surprised them. What surprised you as you were pulling this all together?
I think when it comes to multi-party, multi-issue negotiations, some of the complexity around forming coalitions and making side deals, that piece of it really surprised me. I'm most accustomed to these one-on-one negotiations. You are buying a piece of furniture on Facebook Marketplace. You are buying a used car. You are negotiating a salary with an employer. You're negotiating a contract with your freelancer, and you're negotiating a contract with a client. All of these are one-on-one situations. When you've got, let's say, a group that's all you and your group of friends from college or from grad school, you're all getting together and you're going on a big group vacation. You're all renting an Airbnb in the mountains of Tennessee. There are actually, again, you don't think of it as negotiations, but there are a million different negotiations that are going on within that. And there are little coalitions that are forming, and there are little like side agreements that are happening. And the easy way to think of this is think of any big group text thread that you're on. You've got your group text thread, and then there are all kinds of little ancillary threads of where maybe your big group text thread is 9 people, but then 3 out of those 9 are on another thread of just their own. And then 4 out of those 9 are in a different thread of just their own. And so there are all of these little side conversations that are happening all the time. Those side deals that happen like on the fringes or in the margin then come back into that big group conversation and help shape that. And so really developing an understanding of how that works, that was probably the piece that surprised me the most. And also it was the piece that was the most fun, I thought.
I would think done tactically and tactfully, that can really add some good leverage to your argument. Done poorly, I think that could wreck. I've seen it both ways, right? Done poorly, you're like, oh, you guys are all ganging up on me, so screw you. You know what? Like you could totally put the person on the defensive if you don't know. Or I think the realization that this could be happening to you, that somebody else is organizing side deals.
Let's go back to the group text thread analogy.
Yeah.
If you've got, let's say, 9 people on a group text, if you've got some side text that 8 out of the 9 are on, one person is left out, that's terrible. Nobody wants to be that one person. But if you've got...
I don't even want to be one of the 8, by the way.
Right,
I always feel bad when we've got that. I'm like, come on, let's just keep everybody on the same thread. But anyway.
But let's say you've got a group text thread with 9 people, but you've got a bunch of little ancillary threads that are maybe just 2 people, so it's one-on-one conversation. Or maybe you've got a little group of 3, but those 3 are united because they have some sort of a common interest. Of the 9 people on your text thread, those are the 3 who all live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right? So that's the little Milwaukee trio. And then there's a different group of 3, and they're united because they're the only people on the text thread who have cars that they're going to be driving to the event, and everybody else is flying in. So they're the drivers of the group. So it isn't that these little side groups formed randomly for the sake of excluding people. It's often that these side groups form because they have some sort of common or shared interest. And that common or shared interest leads them to come together to talk about how their common interest can best be represented in the context of the wider group.
Well, how many times have you and I both seen when there are people with shared interest and the person across the negotiating table neglects that, like forgets to realize that so-and-so shares this interest too. Having that so often. This just scratches the surface, stackers. Paula, as you can imagine, has gone deep on this topic. I know this took forever to put together.
Yeah.
You've been through all kinds of beta, but if people want to dive deeper, what do they get?
You get instant access to, so first of all, I'll talk a little bit about how we built it. So we've been working on this for over a year. Actually, we began work, Joe, I was at your place when we officially began work on it. So that was, when was that, last April?
It's a hilarious thing. Paula was at my house, but I wasn't at my house.
Yeah.
I was in Nepal partying with Paula's sister.
Yeah. That was the week of the eclipse. So we've been working on it since then. We've gone through 2 rounds of beta. We have a total of 72 students who have gone through our 2 beta rounds. Now we're ready to finally have our first big not beta release, our first real release. Here's what we learned during beta. We have lots of videos and transcripts, both written content and video content, about the theory of negotiation. And that's great. And I think it's very robust and it provides a backbone. But what we saw with our beta students was that the live practice sessions was where we really began to see progress. You can watch YouTube videos about how to swim, but unless you jump into a swimming pool, you're never going to learn how to swim. You can read the manual about how to drive, but unless you actually get behind the wheel, you're never going to learn how to drive. The same is true in negotiation. It's such an interpersonal activity that unless you actually practice, you can learn all the theory in the world and you're not going to improve. And so the net effect of those 2 rounds of beta is the biggest lesson that we learned was that we need to make live practice the biggest piece of this course. And so that was how we ended up shaping this course for its final iteration. When we did our first round of beta, we would pair people off into groups of 2 and say, hey, go self-organize with your practice partner. And that didn't work because the practice partner would ghost. And then you'd have one person who was like, I want to practice, but my partner isn't responding, right? And then we'd try to reassign them. And it was just a big mess. And so then when we did our second round of beta, we put people into pods, big accountability pods of typically around 6 people. And we separated the pods by color. People were assigned either a warm color, red, orange, yellow, or a cool color, blue, green, purple. For every negotiation, the warm colors had one set of asymmetric information, buyer information. The cool colors had the other asymmetric set, seller information. And so we would say, all right, this week, red pairs with purple, orange pairs with blue, green pairs with the yellow. And if the practice partner couldn't make it, you had 2 automatic backups. And so that was how we tried to organize it with our second beta cohort. And we found that even that didn't quite work because it was certainly better than the first one, but it didn't quite work because we just had some people who were very enthusiastic and wanted to come to every single negotiation, and others who could only do it when it was convenient and they had some other things going on. Towards the middle to end part of our second beta cohort, we said, you know what? Tuesday, we're doing it. I'll be there. We're doing this all together as a group live.
Everybody.
Oh, yeah, everybody come together. And if you can't make it on Tuesday, you're still going to have your pod squad. That's going to be there for you as a backup. So if you can't make it on Tuesday, here's your pod squad. We'll send you all of that information. But Tuesday, live practice, this is really where the value is.
It is where the value is. I wouldn't miss that for the world. I think anytime if I get to step up and do it, it scares the hell out of me. But it's still the piece that completes a puzzle. Like I could watch YouTube videos all day, but until I put the hammerhead on the nail, nothing happens.
Exactly. That was the biggest thing that we learned from running the beta cohorts. Tuesday live practice. That is the heartbeat of this course.
So to get more information about your next raise, as I thought about this, and Paula and I, of course, have collaborated on a ton of stuff. I'm not going to say I collaborated on this at all, by the way. So if you thought I was going there next.
You provided the house, Joe.
That's right. I'm exhausted from all the work I did on this. It was horrible. But head to stackybenjamins.com/negotiation, stackybenjamins.com/negotiation. And I'll tell you why you'll want to go there. You can certainly buy it at Afford Anything, but for people that enjoy Paula and my collaboration in other things, and I know there's a significant part of our community that listens to both Afford Anything and Stacking Benjamins, I wanted that special community to get a little bit of the Stacking Benjamins piece of this that Paula forgot to add. And we're adding two things. The first is Mom's neighbor Doug wrote an additional playbook about he would have done this completely differently. So you will receive for free Doug's playbook. And I'll give you some of these. Doug's number one piece of advice is mindset, go in hot, stay angry. Doug says negotiation is war. War is won by volume and confidence. You've got at least one of those. And by the way, what I like about Doug's guide, and I know nobody's going to buy a negotiation course because of Doug's guide, but what I like about it, and this is what I think we bring to the table, is that we take some of these concepts that we've gleaned from Paula's course, and we, of course, parody them with a real example at the end. That, you know, the true tip here is that confidence is key, but it's not the same thing as confrontation. Maybe leave the war paint at home, and remember, we're trying to make everybody win. We have Doug's points and then actually the counter good point. So that's some fun stuff. And then second, and this is one that has been important to me and how I thought about this. There are often times when people think that you are doing the right thing, yet the person across the table thinks that you're being a real jerk. And so I've put together my list of phrases and words and strategies that I've seen people use in the past that totally make you seem likable and not to use. So Paula, back to the question of what are some tactics used on you? These are some that if you try to take the stuff, and Paula's not going to teach you any of these, but if you think these are great, these are some things that I will tell you are absolutely horrible. So you'll get those two things. They're not huge. They're small additions, but for people that love Paula's work, but also want the little Stacking Benjamin spin on it, just use stackybenjamins.com/negotiate. And of course, we're affiliated with Paula on this, so you'll also help the Stacking Benjamin show a little bit while you get that huge raise that you know you deserve, or you get to unload the dishwasher like you know you deserve, or whatever you're negotiating. All right, and we'll have links in the show notes to all of it. Paula, nice meeting you. Glad we could have this chat.
Joe, how's Cooper doing?
Cooper is an older cat like your cat, not having the issues that your cat's having, but he now has thyroid, which apparently humans go hypothyroid and cats go hyperthyroid, our vet told us. So we put this medicine on him, but we ran out. And I got to tell you, when he runs out of medicine, he's hungry all the time. And his body just completely burns it off. So he begs for food nonstop. And it was hard to watch, but it was also hard to be around. It was, I understand why. I understand the medicine, But I'm also like, man, are you just a grouchy guy when you're not on your meds? And I know several people like that who are grouchy people, not on their meds. Yeah.
Joe, the last time that I was at your house, I was there to watch Cooper. But this time, so you've got a renovation going.
I do. Yeah. We got about 2 months to go.
All right. When that is done, I'm coming back to Texarkana. I'm inviting myself. Behind the scenes, you've invited me.
You were supposed to come finish this thing for me, Paula.
Yeah, I'll pick up the hammer. I'll be picking up the hammer.
Perfect.
But yeah, I'll come back to Texarkana. I'll see the new wing of your home, and looking forward to seeing Cooper again, as well as you and Cheryl.
Hey there, Stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and today is iconic actress Lucille Ball's birthday. The star of I Love Lucy and many other hit shows was a groundbreaking woman who not only negotiated well, she won. In fact, how about this trivia question? Lucy and her husband, Desi Arnaz, wanted, Lucy, I'm home.
Wow.
The best line.
And you did it so poorly.
Nailed it. Lucy and her husband, Desi Arnaz, wanted high-quality viewership, so they wanted to tape the television shows and replay them at a higher resolution rather than just broadcast live. While the network thought this was too expensive, Lucy and Desi decided to pay for the film out of their own pocket. Nice move, because later they made millions from this. But how? I'll be back right after I go watch Lucy in the Chocolate Factory again. That is just so damn funny. Stuffing them all into her mouth.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
Did you know Fast Growing Trees is America's largest and most trusted online nursery with thousands of trees and plants and over 2 million happy customers? Whether you're planting fruit trees, adding privacy, brightening things up with flowers, or bringing in houseplants, Fast Growing Trees has it all. Even better, they can help you find options that are right for your climate, your space, and lifestyle. Click Order Grow. Every plant arrives healthy with the Alive and Thrive guarantee straight to your door. So if you're ready to get planting, this is the moment. Right now, they have great deals on spring planting essentials, up to half off on select plants. And listeners to our show get 20% off their first purchase when using the code WWO at checkout. That's an additional 20% off. Better plants and better growing at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code WWO at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code WWO. Now's the perfect time to plant. Let's grow together. Use WWO to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Go to growingfasttrees.com for details.
Hey there, Stackers. I'm Chocolate Lover and a guy with a crush on a redhead with a birthday, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Anyone who knew Lucille Ball knew that she was tough and a born comedian, writer, and negotiator. She and her husband, Desi Arnaz, Lucy, I'm home.
Don't.
You just can't. You can't.
No.
You say his name. You have to. They paid for the studio filming I Love Lucy to tape the shows so they could make tons of Benjamins. But how? During negotiations, they got the network to agree that they could own the rights to the tapes after the shows were originally aired, meaning that they could play them again later. The now standard rerun was created, and Lucy and Desi, I almost said it, pocketed Benjamins and Benjamins upon more Benjamins. Great negotiating, Lucy. And now, back to two guys who love an I Love Lucy rerun and one who's got a major crush on Ethel, Joe, and OG.
Who didn't have a crush on Ethel? Come on.
She's a handsome woman.
between me and Fred.
Fred was probably like 39 when they filmed that, and he looked like he was 75. And his pants up to his nipples. That was awesome.
For people too young, you just go back and watch a couple I Love Lucy. It holds up.
Actually, a lot of it does hold up.
Yeah. Great stuff. OG, you're a big fan of I Love Lucy, I'm sure.
Never watched a single one ever.
Never watched one. Oh,
Yeah, not old like you guys.
It's a pretty distant memory for me. I think, Joe, we were pretty young when
They were in
those
black
were
and
on
white,
in
guys.
rerun.
They're
Totally black and white, but I'm just saying it wasn't like we were watching them in their original primetime airing, jerk face.
Weren't you, though?
I love those negotiations where one side thinks it's no big deal, like in this case, the studios, Doug, and the other side knows exactly what they're getting into.
Yeah, that is cool when they've got a vision.
It reminds me, and I think, Doug, you saw the series, I believe it's on Paramount Plus, The Offer.
It's crazy that you're bringing that up, Joe. This is what I want to talk to you about. Remember before we started recording, I'm like, oh, I had something for you, but it wasn't show related. It was The Offer. I'm so glad you just said that because now I can go to sleep tonight.
So this is about the creation.
afternoon.
For people that don't know, before Doug launches, by the way, we got to hold the launch for a second, Doug.
Fire it up.
Because this is the series about the making of the Godfather series and the first movie. So taking Mario Puzo, the writer, had this phenomenal book, and it follows the guy who's the producer of the movie, played in this case by Miles Teller. It's meant for Hollywood, obviously, but it follows a true story, which is pretty freaking wild.
It is. It is wild. So off air, you may be surprised, but Joe and I have a lot of discussions about shows and quality of shows, and we often do not see eye to eye on these things. And this, I thought, was going to be another one because you raved about this show to me. And so I started watching it like 2 weeks ago, and the first episode was like, at best, a generous 4 stars out of 10. I did not like it. I thought
Out of 100.
Yeah, I'm like, this is so cheesy. It's overacted. The dialogue is so contrived, and just the setup between scenes is so contrived. And I'm like, this just sucks. Joe has just losing his sense of taste. And I watched half of the next episode because I love The Godfather and I love anything that is loosely based in truth. So that's going to keep me around a little longer. Got halfway through the next episode. Maybe it's getting better. Maybe I'm just tired. Maybe I'm hungover. I don't know. And then I picked it up again last night because it was a day game for the Tigers. So I had nothing to watch all night. I'm like, this is freaking awesome. This show is fantastic. Either I was not in the right frame of mind for the first episode, or they just didn't find their footing until a little bit later. It is quite good. Would recommend.
His negotiating with the mafia, just one spoiler here, is that he agrees with this mafia boss that they will not say the word mafia anywhere in the movie because the mafia doesn't want it made. Unbeknownst to the mafia member who has not read the script at all, they don't use the word mafia anywhere already.
It was going to be in one spot. It was going to be uttered one
they
time.
had to take out one.
It's super entertaining. Now, I've done a little bit of research, as I do when I'm watching true stories, and read an interview with a guy who was part of the leadership of Paramount at the time and on this movie's executive team. And he said, most of this was written to make Ruddy, was it Al Ruddy? To make him look really good. And in fact, he was not nearly as hands-on and involved. Makes him look like he saved the whole movie.
This is from Al Ruddy's biography.
Yeah,
They've taken Al Ruddy's autobiography and taken it from there. So clearly Al is going to make Al look really good.
When I write mine about this show, I'll give you one guess how it's going to look.
But negotiate something the other side thinks is really important that isn't that important to you. If you can do that, give them what they want, and it's an easy trade-off for you, that's a great place to negotiate from. Let's do a headline.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamin's headlines.
Our headline today comes to us from Investment News, and this is written by
Harvey Oswald.
Leo Almazora. Leo asks, could 401k plan participants gain from guided personalization? So we talked about leakage on Monday, OG, from 401ks. But let's talk about the other side of this coin, where you're going to leave your money in the 401k. How well are you doing? Leo writes, while American workers are able to take important steps toward bright retirements by investing in retirement plans, they may improve their prospects even further by participating in a managed account service. I want to get into that in a minute, but Morningstar has consistently found in its 11 years of looking into managed accounts impact on investment decisions and savings among defined contribution plan participants. All right, I want to put the brakes on right there, OG, because what's interesting to me about this is actually two things. We'll get into managed accounts in a moment, but just the fact that in your 401k, advice in your 401k or not having advice in your 401k, Morningstar has found that having somebody that might know what's going on with how to lay out investments, help you do a better job of asset allocation, maybe leave your hands off it, maybe figure out this fund's good, this fund's bad, getting some education, some hand-holding there, has proven that these people do much better than people who just enroll, pick a couple funds on their own, and forget it.
You got to think, like, when it comes to normal market movements, having even just a small system of rebalancing where you're taking a little bit off the winner every year and investing more in whatever asset class or whatever fund didn't perform as well, you're buying more at a lower price. That eventually is going to have some sort of aggregate benefit, even if a little teeny tiny benefit every year of point whatever percent. Over time, that's going to add up. Just something as simple as that. Now add in a little bit better asset allocation, perhaps, or just the discipline of not selling when things are the wrong time. The market's down a whole bunch and you get freaked out and you take money out and put in the stable fund. We all know people who have done that. Certainly not us. Certainly not. We don't do those things, but some people do crazy things with their money. Having those guardrails in place that prevent those little teeny tiny mistakes, or God forbid, the big giant mistake of what we reported on some time ago, the rollover that goes and sits in cash for 18 months or 2 years because the person thought, oh, I did my rollover, so I'm good. And meanwhile, didn't know that there was a second act of now you have to invest that money.
Yeah, this gentleman who's the director of retirement research at Morningstar, in research earlier this year, he and his colleagues found 65% of participants who were not on track to hit their retirement goals saved even more money after they got help. So if you're not on track, you're feeling like you don't know what you're doing, you get some help. It created this behavior, OG, where they wanted to put more money in that thing because of the confidence that they felt to invest in the 401k. That's a powerful statement right there.
And I don't know that it's even confidence to invest in the 401k, as in, are we feeling that the 401k is a waste of money? Or I've told this story before. When I was first an advisor back in the 90s, I remember going to my dad and saying, hey, you got to do this 401k thing. It's really cool. And he's, I'm not giving those SOBs any of my money. You have to, if you knew my dad, you'd understand where that's coming from. But he was a pension guy. I work hard. I'm going to get my pension. That's my retirement, is my pension. I don't need to give those SOBs any more of my money. I don't know if it's so much that, or it's the confidence of, hey, you've got this. You need to, if you save $500 a month in your plan, you're going to go from not being on track to retirement to being on track. I don't know which one of those angles of the confidence piece we're talking about. I suspect it's the former of trying to make sure that we've got a known outcome.
Yeah, people not on track.
Yeah, I feel like you get to a certain age. We work with a ton of people who are at 40 to 55-ish range, right? Where it's, okay, this is getting real. I can see the end of this. I've been doing this for 15, 20 years. I can see the fact that I might be done in 10 to 15 years. And I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I've been just doing some stuff. And I think a lot of people are surprised to find out, even if they're behind, how easy it is to catch back up. It's not like this radical change. It's doing a little bit of stuff in the right direction, gets you back on track. And maybe that's what he's talking about, is people are just like, I'm so far behind, I might as well not even try. And then you talk to somebody and you go, oh, dude, it's $200. You go, oh, I can do that.
I like this idea of the coaching, the hand-holding, the idea that there's a little bit of accountability when it comes to this. Don't get me wrong. It's your goal. It's your stuff. You could have done this on your own, but every study shows when you feel like you got to report into somebody, you're going to make better decisions in many cases, which is exactly what this shows. You're going to make better behavioral decisions. The second piece of this, though, is this idea of managed accounts. Now, Morningstar, obviously, as I read through this, so Morningstar offers a managed service on the shock of shocks, right? So they go to Investment News, their PR department goes, hey, we got a managed service, and we did this study. This seems to show that we're badasses and more people should do this.
We're really good at the thing that we sell.
I do like the idea of coaching and people helping you with your 401k and having smart people around you. But this idea of having a managed fund inside of your portfolio, OG, where they're handing the keys to Morningstar or some other group, and you tell Morningstar or some other group your goal, and they are literally going between the funds inside your 401k, and they are making the moves for you. You're putting money in, and they are making the moves on your behalf. Do you like that? Do you trust that? Is that an option that you think we're going to see more of?
It's another layer to what already exists, right? If you think about it, if you have a list of ETFs or mutual funds in your workplace retirement plan already, you're already hiring a fund manager. Now you say, well, I'm buying an S&P fund. That's easy to do. Yeah, but you're paying that person to put it together and make sure the allocation is the same as the S&P. Now you're not paying a bunch, but you're paying a little bit. The next layer to that, can you, Joe, sit down and say, I think that I would need, using some tools or your own intuition or math skills or ChatGPT or whatever, can you sit down and say, I think I should have a little bit of S&P and a little bit of international and a little bit of small cap? Sure, you can do that. And could you, Joe, 6 months from now, sit down, print that off, dump it back into ChatGPT and say, rebalance this and tell me what to do? Yeah, you could. Can anybody do that? Of course they can. Now, is that the right allocation for you based on your risk tolerance and timeframes and goals? Maybe not. Is it beneficial to have somebody double check it? Or is there some benefit to rebalancing a little bit more tactically instead of once a year, once a quarter, once a month? Statistically, not so much, but maybe every so often. Somebody who rebalanced in April is really excited by the fact that they rebalanced April 8th. If that just happened to be the day that your automation ran, you're feeling pretty good about that. That's the day your profit sharing deposit for the year hit. You're feeling pretty good about that. It's a good day to put money in. You didn't know that at the time, but you know it now. So I think this is a little bit of know thyself. There's a lot of people who are listening to this going, what in the hell? Why in God's name would you ever pay anybody to do any of this stuff when you can just sit down and do it yourself? Absolutely. There's also a lot of people, my brother is a great example of this, who when I call him and I go, oh yeah, we're just BSing a little bit. And he's, what are you up to? And I said, I got to take the car in and get the brakes done. He'll go, what in the hell? What kind of idiot are you that you don't know how to change your own brakes on your car? For God's sake, that's one of the easiest things to do in the world. Now for him, that's what he's an expert in. He's really good at that. He's certified. He's done it his whole life. I've watched him do it. For a case of beer and a pizza, he'll do it for me. But I'm not willing to trust the fact that I don't know shit about brakes on cars and my family's success or failure in driving to whether or not that's not my skill set.
Oh, geez, I've already had one hole in my garage. I don't know.
And the brakes work just fine. Yeah, exactly. We can do this for all sorts of things. Doug, you were in the tech field as your career. Yep. You feel pretty confident in fixing Wi-Fi problems. I don't know the first damn thing about fixing Wi-Fi problems. Reset, you know what I mean?
Unplug it.
So I think a little bit of this is know thyself. And there's plenty of people who are skilled and have the time, aptitude, and the energy to do this on their own. So yeah, in that case, I would say that's pretty stupid. But if you're saving time or you're saving energy or you're saving money or you're making money, maybe you do hire somebody to do it for you.
I like your brother's ratio and his priorities, the case of beer, but just one pizza. I would probably do the case of pizzas and one beer. But
truth be told, he doesn't drink anymore. Good for him. He is completely sober for many years. But in the old days, it was a case of beer and pizza. Now it's probably like a case of soda.
We have a sponsor, IDEO University, IDEO now, and I'm taking their AI course. And what struck me, OG, is it is a lot of the basics and different ways to use AI and the creativity and human-centered design. It's funny, human-centered design using AI teach you human-centered design.
Obviously.
But it's the circle of life. But going through this course, it also strikes me that I could have put this into something like ChatGPT. I'm proficient enough. I could have designed my own course and it probably would have been pretty good. And I wouldn't have paid a dime for something that IDEO, our sponsor, does. But what also struck me as I began this course, I thought, is it beneficial for me to have a set date and time that I need to sit down and do this? Yes, I have ADD and I also have 50 things that I will be distracted by. But if a course is calling my name at this time and I have to be there, I'm going to make sure I get my money's worth. Paying money actually is a guarantee that I'm actually going to do the stuff that it takes to be successful, even though I might be able to set this up by myself. Second, these are people that have done this for years. And am I benefiting from these instructors who have a different point of view versus my AI, which spends its day kissing my ass about how smart I am?
Your AI is set up differently than mine then.
My ChatGPT is, wonderful choice, Joe.
Mine's like Arlie Ermy from Full Metal Jacket.
You can't handle this.
That's Jack Nicholson from Few Good Men. But
this may not surprise you, but mine is totally deferential because I'll reply to it with things like, "You're not very good at this, are you?" And it'll be like, "You're right. I'm not. I have a lot to learn.
My bad." Again, kissing your butt. So good. We will link to this story on our show notes page at stackingbenjamins.com. I don't know about using a managed portfolio inside of your 401k. I'm on the fence about that personally, but I do think.
Yeah, because you've got the expertise to do it, right? So it doesn't resonate with you because you're like, I got it.
That's the point. I could see people doing it. I could see people foregoing it for the reasons that you've talked about. Yeah. Sure. But this idea of people having more confidence because somebody who knew what's going on looked at it, and then you put more money in because of that confidence, and it gave you more success. Let me end on this, by the way, from the piece. I almost forgot this, OG, so I'm glad you made that aside. Morningstar found that not on track self-directors, defined as those with less than 90% of their portfolio in an allocation fund, saw a 43% jump in their projected wealth on retirement, even after paying them 40 basis points.
I like that.
They paid Morningstar just less than 0.5%, and your results shot up.
Yeah.
The impact on projected retirement income was also most pronounced among younger users, with a 26% increase in retirement income seen for the average 30-year-old participant. Just phenomenal. You go get help, you do better, and you reap the rewards.
This is true in so many different areas, but to cap this off, it's right for the right people at the right time and right place in their life. I've got a good friend of mine who lives and breathes bodybuilding. The idea that he would hire a trainer is so comical to him. Like, why do you need to have a trainer, Joe? Why do you need to have somebody to call and talk about? Just do the right thing. Duh. You're like, but that's not who I am. Like, I need to have somebody slap the food out of my mouth because I like cookies. He doesn't. And that's him. This is a good solution for somebody that doesn't have the confidence. And for somebody that has the confidence and is on track and feels confident that they're on track, it's probably not a great solution.
Time for our TikTok Minute. This is the part of the show where we shine a light on a TikTok creator who's either giving us some brilliance or some air quotes brilliance. Jenny found this TikTok creator, Doug, and asks the question, do you think this is actually doable? So I'll lead you with that hint. Do you think we're about to see some doable brilliance or not brilliance?
About how your kid could end up with $4 million in retirement. I'm going to say not doable. I think it's going to propose some stuff that's just completely unrealistic for normal people.
It's funny. It's like, how did you know that? And then I remembered that it was in your opening.
Yes. Because I can see the future, Joe.
Wow. It's incredible. Doug's a mind reader. Yes. How can your kid have, OG, do you think that this is, let's listen and you tell us if you think this is a good strategy for people with their children.
My 16-year-old son doesn't want to go to college. How can I help set him up financially for the future? This is a great question. I want to give you the out-of-the-box idea here. I know this isn't going to work for everybody, but I just want to do this thought experiment with everyone on here. If you have a 16-year-old and you can help co-sign a vehicle for them at 16, like a $10,000 to $12,000 vehicle, one that will last 5 to 7 years, your child can get a part-time job for $1,200 a month with the sole purpose of taking $500 a month to make sure that car is paid off by the time they graduate high school. They'll have $600, $700 a month of play money to have fun and be a kid. Now, here's the second part, which is most crucial. From 18 to 21, you stay at home with your parents. And parents, you pay for everything like you were when they were a kid and don't have them pay a thing out of pocket. They go and get a job or a job and a half for $35,000 a year. They get to use $10,000 a year to go on dates, to buy, to save, to do whatever they want. It's free money. The other $25,000 they make goes directly into the stock market. If they do that for 3 years, on their 21st birthday, they will have $75,000 for their retirement. Here's the best part about compounding interest. If your child accomplishes that and never puts another penny in for his retirement or her retirement for the rest of their life, they, in their late 60s, that could be worth around $4 to $5 million. They just took one of the biggest stressors of all of us millennials off their back at the age of 21 because their retirement's going to be so plush just by those 3 years of sacrifice. And they're also learning about money. The confidence that's going to build for that young person to look at 22, 26, 29, 30 and seeing that money growing is going to create really good habits, because the millennials did it completely opposite. I'm not saying this doesn't work, but a lot of us got trapped because if you graduated 18 years old, buy yourself a car, get a college debt, get credit card debt, now you're 22 years old, $80,000 in the hole. And now you're in this debt trap until your 30s or 40s. And then you wake up and go, oh, I got to pay this off. I want to save for a house. I want to have children. And I'm 20 years behind on retirement. I type it into the calculator. Now I have to put in $2,200 a month for my retirement to have a robust retirement. It is so much better in those first 3 years of graduating high school. If you can stay home and dedicate your entire existence to accomplishing that goal, you will check off one of the biggest stressors that so many of us millennials have to deal with.
He ends by saying, I know that's not going to work for everybody, but so OG, stay home your first 3 years after high school if you're not going to go to college. He assumes, by the way, 10% returns, reinvesting dividends.
About taxes on your 35. I know he's rounding, whatever.
Yeah. It's a piece of a video, but what do you think? Is that doable?
Without doing the math, I'm sure it's doable. The problem is human behavior. This is the age-old story of if information was all that was required, we'd all be millionaires with six-pack abs. It just is what it is. Yes. And I'll do you one better. Why wait till they're 21? Why don't you just put $10,000 away the day they're born? Like that would be easier.
This is Freddie Smith online for people that want to look him up on TikTok. But Freddie's point, I think, that he doesn't make, that we'll make here, is earlier equals better, I think is what you're getting at. Earlier equals better.
Yeah.
Duh.
And the next thinking on this to me is, this is why I have such an issue with people who say, I'm going to retire now, I'm going to be conservative. It's like, why in the hell would you want to do that at this point? You've accumulated all this money. You're 60 years old. Now you want to be conservative. Now's the time to put your foot on the gas, dummy. Because now think about, okay, I got my 3 million at 60 and I can be conservative. The hell with that, man. Hammer down and get that 3 million to turn into 30 million by the time you're 100, so that the rest of the entire family tree of yours never has to think about money. This is the responsibility, I think, of everybody. The earlier that you can solve this, the better. And if the first tick in the turn of the lock on this is the 21-year-old that gets to stay at home for 3 years with mom and dad and save 20 grand, awesome. That's great. My challenge would be, if you do that, don't stop saving the 20 grand. Why go, okay, thank God my retirement's good. I'm done. I don't have to worry about this anymore. Now you've done the right thing. Why don't you start taking care of your kids' retirement or your grandkids' retirement? You know what I mean? If you
build
start
on
that,
the success,
if
build
you
on
start
the machine.
that, don't stop. If you're like, my parents didn't give me anything, I had to pay for all my college on my own. My grandparents didn't leave me anything, and I'm 60 years old, and I'm not leaving my kids anything. Like, why?
And this is the other point. Freddie kind of said that when he said, you're building these good habits and you see the fact that this ball's rolling downhill, OG, you will do good stuff after that.
Yeah, I would give a ton of pushback on that. Nobody sees the compounding in the first 10 or 15 years. In fact, nobody sees it until your money makes more money than you make. It's not real.
And this is why, Doug, and I know you were kidding when you said duh, because it is duh. Earlier equals better. It is duh. But if it was so duh, more people would do it. More people would actually do it. We all know that earlier equals better. But OG, to your point, nobody does it.
We should take all of our Social Security deposits and they should all go in the market instead of lending it to the government.
We have all these priorities. We got all this other stuff going on. I can't afford to do that. I got all this other stuff going on.
It's not because we don't realize it. It's because there are things like Rolexes and cool SUVs that give us more immediate satisfaction. We're weak.
And I think it goes back to our discussion on Monday about the woman that said she was happy she took money out of her 401k and paid the penalties and got rid of some credit card debt with that money. I think it's because we see the Rolex, we see the SUV, and those are extreme examples, Doug, but seriously, it's usually more extra dinners out with friends at a restaurant I can marginally afford, or it's buying stuff for my closet that I really don't need. It's the consumerism, little 1,000 paper cut
Bench
stuff.
made pocket knives.
Yeah, that's right.
God, they're so beautiful, though. I started Googling them since you talked about them. I got a whole wish list. I want steak knives, pocket knives. Doug's got one. He's flashing.
Doug's flashing us again. But I think it's those little things. We don't see the opportunity cost. And when Freddie tells us, hey, if you just do this for 3 years, OG, here's the opportunity. We get $75,000 in our pocket. We're like, okay, now I can blow this up. I got money where I can live large right now. Great stuff, Jenny. I love that discussion. Please send us your TikToks that you found to have us chat about, joe@stackingbenjamins.com, or go to the contact page at stackingbenjamins.com. Let's meander out on the back porch before we say goodbye. Doug, I do have one note that you told me about a few weeks ago that I always forget to point to. We were sad a few weeks ago to hear about the passing of David Gergen, who was on the show, a guy who served U.S. presidents on both sides of the aisle. And one of my favorite interviews that I've done during all of our time at Stacking Benjamins, he talked about leadership. And the next time we have our greatest hits week, we're going to replay that in honor, not only of David, but of the idea that not only money and patriotism, but there's a lot of people out there looking for purpose and meaning. And I think David connects all those things together very well when he was with Stacking Benjamins. A little look under the hood, by the way. He and I recorded an interview. I was so happy we got him because it's a little bit outside of daily money management. I was so excited we got him. I was on my road trip. I was in a hotel in Chicago during our book tour, and I interviewed him, and he shows up with an iPad. And he's remote, of course, and our software doesn't work with iPads. So I said, let's do it on Zoom. We do it on Zoom. It's the only time in all of our history of Stacking Benjamins, we finish it and the file is corrupt and there's no backup. We always run a backup in our system. We always have this idea.
I forgot about that.
We had no backup. So I have to call David Gergen's book publisher and his assistant to ask if David will do the interview again. And he very graciously said, yes, yeah, fine. We'll do it again. He shows up and he's a little gruff because we've already talked, right?
Yeah.
And even though he was nice enough to do it, he's a little gruff. We get done with the second interview. And I said, David, thank you so much. And I apologize again for having to redo this. And he said, you know what, Joe? I think it was way better the second time. And it actually was way better. We had a great interview the first time, but the fact that he did it again and then that he told me that made me feel really good. So anyway, sad to hear about David Gergen passing away.
Great guy. Yeah. Joe, let's talk about a couple of reviews that we've gotten recently as well. Back middle of July in the heat wave, Ashi Garuma left us a very straightforward, simple review. Says, excellent. That's it. You don't need to get super flowery. Just says, excellent. 5 stars, one of the best personal finance podcasts, great perspectives provided across a broad spectrum of topics. And then we had another interesting one that came in.
Thank you for that, by the way. That's very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't mean to breeze past that too quickly. Thank you, Ashi. Also had an interesting one just a few days ago titled, and this was perplexing, Additional Contributors. 5-star review, so we love that. In the body text, this person, LGOBP, says, love the addition of Doc G and Paula, who've been with us for what, 30 years?
Forever. But I'm glad that they noticed that 14 years ago we added Paula to the lineup and Doc G about 6 years ago. And Doc G's more time to time because that's our quote brother show, Earn and Invest. Yeah. So Doc is on a little less often.
We got to give, I'm assuming BP is the last name. So we got to give LGO some grace here because maybe they just started listening to us recently and heard just unbelievable content and shows that we made, the three of us. And then Doc G shows up and he's, whoa. And then maybe Paula was off. Off on a Friday.
Right.
And then she shows up and his head hurts now.
And we tried to do that, LG, we'll call him LG. LG, we tried to do that to make sure those Friday roundtable discussions are interesting and we don't have this. For a while, we had the same 3 contributors on every show and it just got a little, everybody was betting what OG was going to say next, what Paul was going to say next, but when we stick a few different people in the room from time to time, we get these more nuanced conversations.
Yeah,
so
you know what's been a really fun addition recently when OG hadn't been able to make a few in a row is when his sit-in still wins a point for him on trivia.
Unbelievable. Yes. Hopefully on Friday, when Don McDonald from Talking Real Money sits in for him, that won't continue.
Hopefully he just crashes and burns. Just falls right in his face. Big old scab on the top of his nose.
Come on, you can do it.
Choke, Don, choke.
Speaking of do it, I think we can end this episode. Thank you, everybody, for the kind words. And thank you for lending us your ears and your time. If you know somebody who, needs to hear about how to use a 401k, wants to set up their child for success, or somebody who wants better negotiation, this is the episode for them. So forward this to them. We always end every episode the same way here with our to-do list. Doug, what are the 3 big things I think we need to take home with us today and get working on?
Joe, first, take some advice from Paula Pant. New addition to the show. A little negotiation skill can improve your life in many areas, not just when you're at the car lot. Second, your retirement plan at work, thinking about how you'll manage it toward your goals can go a long way. Managed accounts? Maybe not. But the big lesson? Don't bother asking Joe for the film rights to Stacking Benjamins. Apparently, they're already in a court-ordered digital escrow, whatever that means. Thanks to Paula Pant for joining us today. You'll find her new deep dive into negotiation at stackingbenjamins.com/negotiate. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2025. And is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Joe gets help from a few of our neighborhood friends. You'll find out about our awesome team at stackingbenjamins.com, along with the show notes and how you can find us on YouTube and all the usual social media spots. Come say hello. Oh yeah, and before I go, not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamins Show.
Hold on. Wait. I just got a voicemail from Comcast Infinity. They're watching us. We've noticed you haven't confirmed your 50% discount on your monthly bill yet. Please call back at the number shown at your earliest available time. Thank you. Fun fact, Comcast isn't a fucking provider in Dallas.
Welcome to the after show. That's incredible. I got a good one the other day, OG. I received one that said the DocuSign was completed from DocuSign.
Oh, yeah.
And it was very well done. It was very well done.
Yeah.
So-and-so has countersigned your thing. And I'm like, I don't remember a DocuSign.
Uh-huh.
I should click on it real fast.
Yep.
So good.
I got one of those while we were in the midst of signing a bunch of stuff via DocuSign for...
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I did not click on it. I can't remember what it was that made me think, wait a minute, this feels different than the other ones. But it was, they just got lucky. The scammers got lucky and slipped it in at the perfect time. And I was
What's it they're hoping for, right? Your DocuSign or OG's Comcast, just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Is anybody else getting tons of job offers right now via text?
No, just
I get a job offer every day via text. Hey, I'm from whatever jobs. Why don't you come work for us? It just, I don't know where the scam is here, but there's got to be one if I'm getting one every day.
The scam is you have to pay to be on their like preferred list or something. They'll get you a job, but you need to send them an application fee or something.
Yeah.
The one thing I do know is that all the best jobs come via text from people I don't know. I'm sure that's
it's
how
LinkedIn 2.0.
Yes. That's how Tim Cook received his job at Apple. He just got this random, hey.
Got an iMessage.
He's been unemployed for 4 months. Unemployed engineer walking down the street. All of a sudden gets looks like Apple needs a CEO. I'll be darned.
Weird.
Yeah. So strange.